Welcome to the Daily Dharma, a gentle podcast where we read a philosophical story every week and reflect on how it relates to everyday life. Our focus is to use Buddhist philosophy to understand the complexity of modern life and find achievable and accessible pathways to peace and happiness. Hi everyone, welcome to the Daily Dharma. In this episode, we'll be talking about resilience through change and how, by processing and understanding change in our lives, we can learn to be more resilient when facing our greatest struggles. The story that we'll be reflecting on this theme is called Pickling Through Pain, and it comes from the book Zen Stories with Master Seiji by Daiki Shimada. Here is how the story goes. Master Seiji was carefully placing plums into jars filled with a special brine, a recipe passed down through generations, when he heard a familiar voice call out from the entrance of his garden. "Seiji, are you home?" The voice, tinged with sadness, immediately caught Seiji's attention. Turning around, Seiji saw his old childhood friend walking towards him. "What a surprise," Seiji said, wiping his hands on his apron. "Come, join me. I'm just pickling some plums." His friend settled down next to Seiji, watching his friend methodically prepare the fruit. There was a heavy silence that filled the air, one laden with unspoken words and emotions. Finally, he spoke. "My wife and I, even though we've tried, we've decided to go our separate ways." Seiji paused, placing a plum gently into a jar before looking at his friend with a soft, understanding gaze. "I'm so sorry to hear that. Life's unexpected turns are never easy. How are you feeling about all this?" "It's been tough, Seiji. I don't even know where to start picking up the pieces," his friend confessed, his gaze falling to his hands. Seiji capped the jar he was working on and turned to face his friend. "In times of separation, just as in pickling, there is a process," Seiji began. "First, there's the separation, the plums from their branches, you from your wife. It's a natural yet significant change." His friend nodded. "Then there's the pickling, a period of preservation. It's not immediate. It takes patience, care, and time. The plums don't change overnight, and neither will you. And finally," Seiji added, picking up a jar filled with plums that had been pickling for some time, "there's the transformation. The plums become something new, something different, but equally valuable. And so will you. It's about finding yourself again, learning to understand and appreciate the new flavors life offers." His friend looked up, a flicker of hope in his eyes. "But where should I begin, Seiji?" This all feels so overwhelming. Seiji nodded and said to him, by taking it one day at a time, surround yourself with people who really love and understand you and can support you through this period of change and transformation. And remember, it's okay to seek professional help. Just like these plums, you need the right conditions to transform, and you need a nurturing environment to heal and grow. Thank you, Seiji, said his childhood friend. I guess it's time for me to find my own recipe for healing. Seiji clapped his friend on the back, a sign of support and camaraderie. Anytime, my friend. And keep in mind, transformation is also about embracing and rediscovering the essence of who you truly are. I really like this story because it takes something as simple and rudimentary, but still fascinating, like pickling, and actually uses the process to teach us something about how change actually happens. The plums, when plucked, are something new and different, and it's quite hard to separate them from the branches, just as separation from anything that we love or care about, even if it's for the better in real life, whether it's a lost job, a lost friend, a lost partner, can be deeply painful and difficult. But as life goes on, we see that separation is indeed simply part of life's rhythms. It happens whether we like it or not. And in that process of separation, we have to dig deep within ourselves. And that is essentially the process of pickling. We have to create the right environment for ourselves, give ourselves the right resources, the right tools to really figure ourselves out. Where is our pain coming from? Why do we feel this pain? And what is this pain trying to teach us? Something that I found deeply, deeply interesting and fascinating about pain is that it's always led me to better places. And of course, it's not automatic. When you're first feeling in pain, you feel as though nothing will ever get better. The pain is all consuming, and all you can do is curl up into a little ball and hope that the pain will pass. But as you start to slowly see the pain fade just a little bit, just 1 or 2% of it, go away with time, you start to get the capacity to ask yourself questions about this pain. Why do I feel this profound pain? What is the reason why the pain wants to linger within me rather than move on? And ultimately, what is this pain trying to show me? And where will this pain lead me? In fact, when I think about the story, I really think about the moment I decided to create this podcast, because that was also a time of profound pain in my life. I had recently separated from someone I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with. It was during COVID, deeply isolated. I couldn't meet or speak with any of my friends in person. Work had also become so difficult because I never had those in-person water cooler chats, which I really enjoyed and made work worthwhile. And more than anything, I felt spiritually isolated. Like all of my attempts to connect with those in the temple community my parents were a part of had not really gone anywhere, and I just didn't know where my tribe was. And in that pain, I decided to create this podcast because it felt like a way to simply let my thoughts and essentially my reflections about life be known. And I think it's been about 5 years now. Here I am, and this podcast has become such a beautiful way for me to share the things that I'm learning, the things that I'm working on, and the things that really actually help me when I'm going through difficult times. And in doing so, I feel like I have actually gathered so many friends, people who listen to the podcast, and people who actually are on the same wavelength. And I have to say, this podcast has totally solved that problem of spiritual isolation because I feel it's become a gathering point for me and others, and just a way to help weather and make life's most difficult moments a little less lonely, a little less isolationist, and a little less difficult. And that's why I truly believe that in facing our pain and in understanding it and being patient with the process of healing, we actually find ways that significantly uplift us and empower us, just like this podcast has done for me and hopefully for those who listen to it. So I say, the reality is your pain is always trying to teach you something. It's always trying to lead you to a better place. But that process is long, it is hard, and it requires a lot of patience. And just like the pickling process, this kind of change doesn't happen overnight. But if you're persistent and you believe that this change will lead you to somewhere better, one day you'll arrive at that place and be deeply grateful for yourself for taking a chance and understanding and facing your pain rather than ignoring it. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I also want to share a very special shout out to Carl and Elias for reaching out to me. Thank you both so much for emailing me. I really appreciate it in doing so. And if you have any questions, thoughts, or reflections you'd like to share with me, please email me at dailydharmapodcast@gmail.com. Thank you again for being with me today, and I hope you have a beautiful, safe, and joyful week ahead of you. Until next week.